All right, folks, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by good friends here at Mile High Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets and one Nikola Jokic, who I don't know if you guys knew this. He's been in the MVP race over the course of the past, 5 years, 6 years? It's been 5 years, I think. And now, if you include this season, a truly historic level of production and efficiency, not surprised that he is at least being discussed as part of the race for the MVP once again. Jokic and the Nuggets have been at the top of the West for a long time. And so, with that comes a certain level of responsibility, and with that comes a certain level of prestige. And so, obviously, the MVP becomes part of it. But he's been so consistent. And the one thing that was going to ultimately hold him up from the race was injury, was whether he could make the 65 game rule. Well, he came back. He has currently played, I don't know actually how many total games he has played. Let's take a look at that just so I'm not talking out of my butt. 37 games, currently averaging 28.9 points, 12.2 rebounds, 10.7 assists, shooting 59% from the field, 42% from three, and nearly 85% from the line. He has set the record, or is currently setting the record, for player efficiency rating, I believe, as well as his own various records across Basketball Reference and what he has done from there. It's been ridiculous. It's been a ridiculous season for Jokic, but ultimately, him sustaining an injury put that into danger, put the ability to play as many games as needed in danger. And so the Nuggets, where they survived without him, there was an argument that was put against his MVP candidacy for no real reason. It was just Denver winning a whole bunch of clutch games and playing against some pretty poor competition overall, in my opinion, that helped them survive during that stretch. But then Jokic comes back. They face against a whole bunch of high-profile teams, including the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they lose, and Jokic doesn't look at his best. He goes 1 of 13 from three in New York at the Garden. They lose to the Pistons in a very close game. Like, there was a lot, I think, that you could say when he came back, and when the Nuggets were really trying to reestablish themselves and the chemistry around playing Jokic ball, that they struggled and they lost some of these games, but they won against Chicago. Jokic set he's in second place in all-time triple doubles now. He continues to put up historic numbers, and the Nuggets continue. If they can win, they will be towards the top of the Western Conference once again. So if he qualifies for over 65 games, then he has to be a candidate. And so it was funny, like FanDuel they've absolutely they took him off the board for a while when he was injured, didn't allow other people to bet on him. Now he's back, and the odds have shrunk to the point that it's now becoming a legit conversation again, in addition to the fact that Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander is out. He's currently out right now and will not play for the final 3 games of the OKC before the All-Star break. He sustained an ab injury and abdominal strain, and at max, Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander, I believe, will play 75 games. Jokic will play at max 66 games. So if he qualifies, he plays at least 65, right? Like, that's the threshold that he has to play. There's no telling how many games Shai will or won't play, but the large gap between those guys, like, even if Jokic had qualified, if Shai had played 78, 79, 80 games, there's just no great statistical argument to have Jokic over him if the gap in wins is as high as it is and the gap in total games is as high as it is, despite the fact that there's a 65 game rule. Like, I would not have voted for Jokic if I were a voter if Jokic played 65, Shai played 79 or 80, and Denver was down like 8 to 10 games in the standings against OKC. And like that's fine. Like Jokic is, I think, the best player in the world, but there is a certain level of availability that you have to have, and the total impact that Shai would have in that case, to me, would outpace what Jokic has done. But it's getting closer, especially if Shai continues to miss. If he continues to miss some of these games, then I think that there's at least a conversation to be had. So let's go over not just Jokic's numbers, but SGA's numbers as well. Um, Ridiculous stats for SGA, and that's the thing that really needs to be highlighted here. Shai's shooting 55% from the field as a guard. Like with the types of shots that he's taking, 39% from three, 89% from the line, obviously. He's a very high profile getter to the free throw line. He goes there 9.2 times per game. Jokic, by comparison, as a center, is at 7.6, which is a higher volume of free throws than he has shot previously. It's one of the reasons why his efficiency is as high as it is. Jokic is at 70% true shooting, though as a center, his shots are just a little bit easier. Shai's at 67. Like, I need people to fully appreciate that that is absolutely nuts. The level of efficiency and effectiveness that he put together is crazy. Like, the numbers from last year, in my opinion, were more tilted towards Jokic. We're more tilted towards, hey, he is the more impactful player. He's playing consistently. His volume is crazy. His efficiency is crazy. And he just does so much for a team that was compromised last year that like it wasn't really a question to me who the most valuable player was. Although Shai clearly made it an argument and played enough games and did enough stuff and was close enough in those numbers, like the difference between Shai as an MVP candidate and Embiid as an MVP candidate is quite literally ridiculous. Like there's no comparison between how good those guys are. Shai is so much better. But this year, like Shai's raised his numbers even higher, even better than where he's been before, to the point now that this is a legitimate conversation between what these guys are going to put out there on a consistent basis. And if Jokic does end up making the qualifier, like he obviously has to be a factor, but the Nuggets have been a little bit shaky during the stretch. They've been obviously ravaged by injuries, trying to figure out how to handle certain things. I think that Jokic himself has been a little bit flawed in terms of like the defense and the ability to move and some of those things. I don't think that Shai's defense is so much better than Jokic that it should be used as a data point. Like when SGA has Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, Chet Holmgren, like Chet could potentially be DPOY this year. Cason Wallace is incredible. Like there's just so many different guys that you can throw out there that help make up for the fact that, hey, Shai could just hide in a lot of these cases. But he's good enough at some of the things like getting into passing lanes and getting some rotational blocks every now and then. That like he does make an impact, and probably more so than Jokic overall. And that's okay. But like Jokic is just the singularly most impactful offensive player that we've ever seen at this point. And the fact that he's now at this stage, like it's a lot. So I think that if I were to vote today, if both guys were eligible, Shai would get it. However, SGA will certainly be missing some games. He's going to be out through the All-Star break. As I mentioned before, if SGA plays every single game after the All-Star break, then he'll get up to 75 games. I think that's the number. If Jokic plays every single game from here on out, he'll get up to 66. So that 9-game gap is like, it's tangible. It's 10% of the season. And so if SGA plays 10% more, then Jokic has to be at least 10% better in his minutes. So if Nuggets fans really want like Jokic to win another MVP, then what they will say is that like SGA has to miss more time. Like that's the easiest way for it to happen, to get those numbers back a little bit on track. There's no guarantee that SGA will be able to come back and play all of those games. Like they may decide to hold him out even more. Like it was notable to me that there was a replacement that was named for the All-Star game pretty early on in the process for SGA, and he's not going to be there. Jokic will be there. Murray will be there. Does that mean that he's going to be fully healthy when he comes back? No. Like he might miss some games on the back end too. So if it's closer to 70, 72 in that general range as opposed to 66, then what does it come down to? It comes down to, can the Nuggets close the gap from a winning perspective? Can Jokic continue to play incredible basketball? Are the numbers that Jokic puts up, are they going to be there on a consistent basis? We will see. The most important thing in my mind that Jokic can do during this stretch is that he has to have some high profile wins during the post All-Star break stretch. It has to be more than just a really awesome performance versus Chicago, a really great performance versus Charlotte, whatever it ends up being. Of course, the Nuggets will face the Thunder on February 27th, which is about a week after the All-Star break is over. They'll face the Thunder again on March 9th, and once again on game 81 of the season on April 10th. So there are 3 more opportunities where those guys are going head-to-head, where Jokic has to play better than he did against OKC in the first matchup. He was too caught up in the referees. He was too caught up in fouls, non-fouls, just trying to get back. He looked a little bit unstable with the knee. Like there are some things that he was not able to do. But he definitely needs some more signature wins. He needs some more signature victories. And fortunately, the Nuggets will have plenty of opportunities for those. They have a very tough strength of schedule for the rest of the season. And so if they're going to close the gap on OKC, then it's going to have to come against a lot of really tough teams. Going into the All-Star break, having wins against Cleveland and Memphis would be a big deal. Whether they do or not, I don't know. But coming out of the All-Star break, there's going to be a lot of national games. There's going to be a lot of tough performances. There is a stretch from February 22nd to March 1st where Denver plays at Golden State, which is, of course, a large media market, at home versus Boston, at OKC, and then home versus Minnesota. Like, if Jokic goes, and the Nuggets specifically go 4-0, and Jokic has amazing games during that stretch, that's a big deal. Immediately after that, like, they've got a back-to-back versus the Jazz, and then a few games later, or not a few games, like just the next game, Lakers, Knicks, at Thunder, versus Rockets, at Spurs, at Lakers, versus Sixers. Like, it is an absolute gauntlet that the Nuggets are going to have to face. And if they're going to be successful during that stretch, if they're going to have high-profile wins during that stretch, it's going to take Jokic being great. It's going to take Jamal Murray being great. It's going to take Denver getting healthier. It's going to take a lot. But more than that, like, if Denver is able to close the wins gap between OKC and them, I don't think that they will. But if they do, it's going to take some really crazy wins and some really awesome performances from Joker in order to do so. So there's plenty of time still left. What I will say is that it would not surprise me if Jokic does not meet the games requirement, if he sits out at least 2 more games during the rest of the season. And if that were the case, then he'll miss out on not only MVP, but all NBA. And I don't think he wants to do that. I think he wants to be eligible for those things. But like, he also, and the Nuggets also, have to take into account his health and whether he's in the red and the yellow on some of these stress tests that they do. They've been pushing forward, and he never wants to sit. So it's going to be difficult for them to get him to do so, but they may have to. So the MVP is not as big as being ready for the playoffs. I think Jokic knows that too. I think everybody in the building knows that too. But they've got to win enough games in order to clinch a top 3 seed, in order to put themselves into the best position possible. in order to advance in the playoffs. And so in order to clinch a top 3 seed, you got to win. And so it's going to be fascinating to see what the Nuggets do. I am very much looking forward to it. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to discuss some of the stuff for David Adelman in the post All-Star break stretch that I'm looking forward to discussing. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. But first, want to let you guys know about the Vimos app. I've let you guys know about Vimos before, and I'm not kidding. If like Valentine's Day is coming up, you're going to want, like, if you want to go out for watching the All-Star game, if you want to go out and enjoy some of these festivities over the course of this weekend, Vimos is going to make it so much easier to do that. They'll make it more productive and more fun. In their own words, Vimos is trying to connect customers to venues in a unique way through their Vimos app. It's a digital wallet that remembers your habits and helps deliver the brands and venues for your night out that you actually want. It works the other way too as a business owner. Like, it helps you connect to customers, helps you manage security, verification, and risk all in one place. Check out the Vimos app. You know that like they'll be able to help you pay for food and drinks, redeem offers, get to different events that you didn't know about before, and do contactless payments. You can also scan in your ID. It makes it super simple. Check out the Vimos app, spelled VEMOS, and have a better night out. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll. Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. I delayed the starts because I've got a massive headache, and it's still going, but I'm just powering through it at this point. So if I'm not as energetic, if I'm not as entertaining, first of all, it's the zit right in the middle of my forehead that's taking all of my power. It's giving me a headache. I hate it. Okay. Let's talk about what's next for David Adelman. I've discussed this before. Last night on Locked On, I went over a playoff rotation that I think Denver will be trying to implement, or at least that's what I would try to implement if I were the Nuggets. I'm going to try to upload that rotation here now so you guys can have some good context on what I was discussing. Let's go here. This is one where Christian Braun gets back into the starting unit. Peyton Watson does not. And when you've got Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, like, this was the plan at the outset of the season. I talked about this with Matt last night, and we were going to make some edits. We're going to talk about, okay, what actually happens for game 1, round 1 of the season, of the playoff run. Reducing Jokic's minutes at the beginning would be great. Having him only play like 36, 34 would be ideal. Whether they can get to that or not remains to be seen. There's no backup center minutes here for Aaron Gordon. That is something that they will have to figure out. Murray is playing 38 minutes in this stretch, and Bruce Brown is playing all of the backup point guard minutes. Perhaps there's somebody else that they try to work into that mix. And then Peyton Watson is the leading minute guy off of the bench, but it might even be justified for him to play more minutes than Christian Braun and or some of the other guys in the starting unit. Like, I have Cam Johnson playing 32 because it made sense to me logically, but maybe Peyton Watson is a guy that you could have replace him at some of those points and give Denver some good athleticism, scoring, defense combinations. The reason why I'm making this about Adelman and not necessarily about the Nuggets and getting healthy and things like that, I knock on wood, I think that they will eventually get their guys back. How long it takes remains to be seen. How long they're actually able to survive remains to be seen. But eventually, this is going to be a conversation that Adelman has to have, that Adelman has to manage and do a good job of balancing out minutes and making sure that everybody is not like everybody's on the same page and going the same direction and things like that. I think that, like, Julian Strawther, for example, has played his way into good graces. He's done a really great job, deserves to play a little bit. I think that Jalen Pickett, until they get a buyout addition, I think Jalen Pickett could be somebody that is still giving them some backup point guard minutes and allows Jamal to play at the 2 a little bit more, allows Bruce Brown to play at the 2, does some different things to give Denver some life there. Spencer Jones, once he gets back and gets healthy, like he'll play a little bit. Aaron Gordon, obviously, is still somebody that they are very high on and want to make sure that he's going to play as much as possible, of course. Uh, but these are all very difficult conversations, and they're very difficult in terms of blending different lineups and trying to figure out who is going to be available, who's not going to be available, and who can help them win the most. I remember when Adelman took over at the end of last season, Denver was in disarray. They were absolutely dead in the water from a competitiveness standpoint, and they didn't have that much belief that they were going to win anything. And then Adelman came in and they won the final 3 games of the regular season. And his consistent message to the team during that stretch was that I'm going to play who gives us the chance to win. I'm going to play who is going to help us win these games in the best way possible. And pre-All-Star break, it's a little bit different. You're trying to survive. You're trying to win, obviously, but there are certain things that you are trying to accomplish. Like, one of the reasons why they went with Peyton Watson in the manner that they did when other guys went down is because it happened in mid-November, and they let him run with it. They wanted to see what he could do from a developmental standpoint. And so they played him and gave him some opportunities and some run that really helped raise his ceiling and give him some confidence that he could bring for the rest of the season, hopefully. We'll see what happens when he's coming back from injury and how the Nuggets kind of work that in. But it's different post All-Star break, and it's different when you are approaching a playoff run. Yes, March basketball can be a little bit chaotic. There's still going to be guys that are resting. There's still going to be guys that are hurt or sitting or whatever. But for the most part, if everybody's back, or most everybody is back, it's just about who is going to give you the best chance to win. There's less thought about contracts for a team like Denver that is trying to win a championship. There's less thought about individual reps and shot attempts. And yes, there are some like contract stipulations that guys have some bonuses, some things of that nature that if they can, they'll try to help those guys get bonuses. But like, that takes second fiddle. And so Adelman has a lot of questions to answer, I think, about what this rotation is going to look like, what the Nuggets are going to look like with the current situation that they have. I'm very curious what the Christian Brown versus Peyton Watson conversation is going to look like. They may not have to decide between the two because Peyton's got a long, or medium long injury about everything that they are like having to deal with. Sorry, I got distracted. Peyton may be back like mid-March, late February, mid-March, in that general range. It's about the same time that Aaron Gordon's coming back. You really think that they're going to keep Aaron Gordon on the bench and put Peyton Watson back into the starting lineup? That's going to start a lot of chemistry, not concerns, but certainly questions about what Denver's looking for heading into the playoffs, like who they are valuing, what they are trying to do. I think that the easiest thing and most, not convenient, but like the thing that provides the least issue is just going back to the main starters. And so that's why I have expected that to happen, where Peyton goes back to the second unit and the Nuggets go in a little bit of a different manner. But would it surprise anybody if Peyton Watson started over Christian Brown? Maybe this isn't even a conversation, because Aaron Gordon is back a little bit later. Peyton Watson gets back a little bit sooner than Peyton's there. And then they're like, okay, we want to make sure that Aaron's healthy for the playoffs, so we're going to bring him off the bench initially. We know that he's got the chemistry with the Nuggets. There's no question about that. He comes off the bench, plays 20 minutes a game heading into the playoffs, and then at some point they transition him back into the starting group. But like, these are tough things, and Denver's going to have plenty of issues navigating, trying to figure out what makes the most sense. Post All-Star break, this team often really locks in, so I'm not as concerned about them not being able to do that or whatever. But I do think that if there's an opportunity for them to run with something, they probably should. And so for a while, that was the Peyton Watson starting experience and him being able to develop and show what he could do. But now they've got to come up with a different thing to run with. And that might be playing Cam Johnson at the four. Like he played great. The Nuggets offense was incredible against Chicago. They have plenty of space. They have plenty of athleticism and plenty of shooting around Jokic in those situations. Julian Strawther did a great job. Maybe that is something that they can continue to do. Maybe not. Like we'll have to find out. Once they convert Spencer Jones, maybe they will sign a buyout guy. And as everybody is letting me know in the comments, Ryan, check the Arian report about Lonzo to the Nuggets today again. I saw it, I'm pretty sure, unless there's something that came out over the course of the last 30 minutes or so. Like, yeah, let me pull up the feed just to see if there's anything. Oh, no, this is the same thing that I saw. The Nuggets have expressed interest in free agent Lonzo Ball. One source close to the process tells consensus. Like, yeah, not surprised. They like this is something that I knew about. This is something, yeah. This is old information, if I'm being honest. Like the Nuggets expressed interest weeks ago. And this is now coming out. It's now kind of pulling that in. I think that Lonzo could potentially help Denver, and but again, it's another thing that David Adelman would have to figure out. And like, are you gonna go with a 10, 11 man rotation? Are you going to try to force a 9-man rotation and really try to blend different skill sets so that guys can play for longer and it's just fewer guys that are playing? That's another thing. I think that Lonzo could help the Nuggets. He's shot the ball horribly for Cleveland. And if he were to shoot the same percentage for Denver, there's just little that he could actually do that would account for the fact that he's playing so badly on the offensive end. So much of it is about being a threat. And he has some of the same issues that Christian Brown has had from a perimeter standpoint, where, yeah, Christian, if he's hesitating, if he record scratches on the perimeter, and slows down the ball, slows down the rotation of what's going on, that is almost as bad as, actually, it is as bad as just missing the shot. And so that's a factor that Denver has to consider with this. Lonzo's a better defender and a smart defender than a lot of the guys on the roster, and he also has size, and that does matter. If he's 6'6", 6'7", somewhere in that general range, like, he could definitely be impactful as a perimeter option and a perimeter defense player, but how much he's holding up from a physical perspective, that matters. And I just don't know if I would go out of my way to try to figure it out if the medical is like, we don't know about it. So if there are major concerns with the medical, I would not consider it that strongly. I would rather get somebody that I know is going to be there for the 2026 playoff run and somebody that you believe could do that. Now, if they think that Lonzo could play 5 to 10 minutes a game and still be there and still be available and be an impactful piece, then sure, that's fine. But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a slam dunk. That could go wrong in so many different ways. Now, Denver doesn't need it to go right in order to be good. When they won the championship with in 2023, they bought out and signed Reggie Jackson to a buyout, and he did nothing. Like he wasn't out there. He wasn't super helpful. Could Lonzo do what Reggie did and maybe come in on occasion and hit a shot or two and make some plays or two? Like, yeah, he could. Maybe he could also just shoot better in Denver. That's also a possibility. So we'll see. But I don't have like strong thoughts about Lonzo. I think he's a potentially winning basketball player. If Cleveland wanted him gone so badly, though, that should say something to people. It's not just financially related. Like, I don't think that they liked what he did there. And Cleveland is a team that has championship aspirations as well. So what's to say that he's going to be that much different in Denver? Who knows? But yeah, I think that Adelman is going to be in a difficult spot in the post All-Star break stretch. He's going to have to balance out wins and trying to really amp things up against some of the toughest competition in the NBA. And he's going to have to balance out the injury stuff that the Nuggets have going on for themselves. Going to have some tough conversations with Joker, with Jamal, with Christian Brown, with Cam Johnson, with a whole bunch of guys, especially as they try to navigate and get themselves ready for a playoff run. Like, your health for the playoffs matters more than A, awards, and B, however many wins you could possibly get in the regular season. Like, I think Denver and Nuggets fans would take this. Wouldn't you rather be the 4 seed and like be healthy, instead of being the 2 or 3 seed and being compromised? Yeah, like I think everybody would rather be healthy in that case. You're gonna have to face OKC one way or the other. Like, facing them in the second round sucks. You'd rather face them in the conference finals. I don't know. Like, you might even be healthier in the second round of the playoffs at that point. So tough to see, tough to figure out. But Denver, of course, has to be in the best position possible. And what that means to me is be the healthiest that they could possibly be. They were not the healthiest they could possibly be last year, and it hurt them. So we'll see if they could do it differently this year. Okay, let's take another break. When we come back, we are going to discuss the game tonight. James Harden is now a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers. What does that mean for the Nuggets and how they are going to cover them? It means a lot. We'll talk about it next year on Pickaxe and Roll.
When I go to court, these aren't my clients. These are my friends. These are people that I believe in. And they have one shot, just one shot for justice. If they've come to me and we've gotten to trial, their life has been turned upside down in some awful way. And I am their only hope. I need to be their champion, to quote Prince Oberyn from Game of Thrones. They need someone in this trial by combat that can fight for them. I'm all they have. So if I haven't put the time in, if I haven't trained, if I haven't humbly looked in the mirror and thought about ways I can be better, and I don't present my best self in court, then I failed them. And that's what motivates me as a trial lawyer, because when this is over, that client goes home. And if I haven't done my best for him, I haven't been his champion, then I have failed.
All right. Final segment, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Folks, hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Also, if you're listening online or along with the podcasts app on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts, it'd be great to see a 5-star review. That would be awesome. I do my work as best I can. Sometimes I do it well, sometimes I don't. But I do try to come to you guys with as much energy and preparation as I could possibly get to. Sometimes that falls through the cracks, but still do my best. Okay. The Cleveland Cavaliers tonight are coming to town. They made a big trade, obviously, swapping Darius Garland for James Harden in the earlier stages of the trade deadline. There was a big move. They've played with Harden and Mitchell now on the floor at the same time for a couple of times, and it looks pretty good. Like, unsurprisingly, those guys can play together and they can score. They have a pretty easy like blend of stuff that they could do. Like, they've been playing pretty small. Jalen Tyson has been their power forward with Evan Mobley out. Jalen Tyson is questionable. Dean Wade is questionable. Both of them have left ankle sprains, oddly enough. But yeah, Evan Mobley is still out. Max Strus is out. They have not the healthiest group that they have, but they're healthier than Denver at this point, who is going to be missing Aaron Gordon, Spencer Jones, Peyton Watson. And then Murray is questionable. I bet that Murray plays. I would be surprised if he didn't. Jokic is probable. Christian Brown is probable. And Denver's going to have some questions to answer with that. If they go with the same starting group that they went against Chicago, that would be Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, Julian Strawther, Cam Johnson at the 4, and Jokic. That is a very offensive-centric offensive lineup, obviously without Aaron Gordon out there, without Peyton Watson out there, without Spencer Jones out there. You're not going to get a whole bunch of the grinders, the physical players, the guys that can like really match up a little bit better with some of the defense that they need against a team like Cleveland. Excuse me. Harden is a tough matchup for anybody. Christian Brown will probably guard him. Actually, no, I think Christian Brown probably guards Donovan Mitchell. Murray stays off the ball and guards like Sam Merrill or Jalen Tyson or somebody like that. And then I think Julian Strawther or Cam Johnson, one of the two there, will guard Harden. And that is a tough prospect. If Denver were to go and change up their lineup, if they were to change up the group that they play with, I would guess that Bruce Brown would get some extensive time against Donovan Mitchell specifically. Like that is a size matchup that I think makes some sense to me. Bruce can be physical against James Harden for sure, but I think that Harden with the step back three will consistently generate space over the top of Bruce Brown, and then Bruce is pressing up, and then that's how you draw fouls. With Mitchell, it's a little bit different. Mitchell's 6'2", really 6'1", 6'2" in that general range. And so he's a bit of an undersized guard at the two. Bruce can match up with him. He's got to play hard. That's going to be tough. But like Christian Brown can't do all of this all the time. Like they're going to need somebody else that can step up. So I wonder if Julian Strawther's able to do that. I wonder if Cam Johnson's able to do that. Those guys are smart. They know what they're like trying to do. Julian has taken a lot of positive steps forward over the course of these last few games. But yeah, like I just think that Denver's in this situation where you do not want, and my dog here who does not really like Murray, but basically says you cannot put Murray on anyone. I mean, he's tough. Like he'll figure it out, but like he's also compromised from a physical perspective after the fall that he had. He's going to try to gut it out, and he deserves credit for that, for what he's done for the entire season. But like the defense has absolutely suffered over the course of the last 3 to 4 weeks as he has taken on so much offensive responsibility. It's a pretty unsurprising thing. All this to say, like Denver doesn't have a lot of perimeter defenders. They have a center in Jokic who's not really able to switch out and really help that much in these situations. He can do some things, and I think he's going to have to be better defensively in this game than he has been for much of it. I thought he was pretty good against Chicago, and if he can continue to do stuff like that, then that would be great. But like Harden knows his game extremely well. Jokic knows Harden's game extremely well. It's going to be a cat and mouse between those guys trying to pick off passes, cut off lob lanes to Jared Allen. I think that the Cavs are going to win that battle, in part because there's going to be no rotational resistance if Jokic steps up and the pass gets through. So it'll be interesting to see. Different Moves asks, Ryan, what's our main defensive problems? Well, there's a lot of them. One is that they struggle on the ball. They struggle on the ball defensively. And when Jokic gets brought into the action, if he is not at peak performance in terms of cutting off driving lanes, cutting off passing lanes, then the ball gets through or the man gets past him. And what that leads to is easy kickouts, easy lobs, easy things in pick and roll. But more than that, like to me, it is like if you're Murray, for example, Murray has been at issue over the course of these past few weeks. Like he has screwed up some backside rotations and is sagging a little bit too far into the lane and then gives up some outside shots or forgets a closeout or stuff like that. Like that's a focus thing. That's a fatigue thing. Murray will be better at stuff like that in a playoff environment where he's really locked into various assignments, things of that nature. And then if Denver has other guys like Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Aaron Gordon, Spencer Jones on a consistent basis, then the overall baseline level that they can reach from a defensive standard is higher. Like they just will be better in a playoff environment to me. Now, they might still struggle at times. Like there are certain schematic things that they're going to be at issue with. If there is a shooting five, like a Karl Anthony Towns, then Jokic is going to have to like he's going to be compromised in a lot of those cases. If there is a guard that is super quick, like it was Jalen Brunson against the Knicks, then Jokic has to move over, and then that opens up lobs and things of that nature. Jonas Valanciunas has some of the same issues. I've actually been impressed when Jonas can get back into the picture on defense, then he can actually do some things defensively. Like he protects the rim decently well. But so often he is out of position because of his mobility and because Denver may not have the right rotations behind him. So there's a lot of issues. Like the biggest ones to me are the rim protection when Denver has their centers get moved out onto an island on the perimeter. They would rather be under the rim. They would rather be in the paint in those cases. If they don't have to move that much, then they're pretty good. But if they don't move out to the paint, then guys get cooked because everybody's tired, and it's just a spiral effect. Like it's damned if you do, damned if you don't in that case. So Denver's going to struggle in this game against Cleveland. That's a fact. They're not going to be able to stop them defensively. So they're going to have to outscore them offensively in my mind. And I predicted last night on Locked On that I think Jokic goes for 30, 20, 10. I think that the rebounding is something that he will really try to manage against Jared Allen. And as long as he is battling Allen, like there's no other guy on Cleveland outside of Thomas Bryant when he's replacing Allen that is really going to be super impactful on the glass. That's something, especially if the Cavs are missing Dean Wade and Jalen Tyson, guys like that, they're pretty small. Like they will have guys that can step up and can do hustle things, but Jokic is 7 feet tall and one of the best rebounders we've ever seen. So I think he's going to grab a lot of boards. I think he's going to score a lot of points. The question is whether the Nuggets are going to hit the outside shots and hit the cuts and do all these things. But I think that they can. I think that they probably will. So I'm thinking 30, 20, 10 for Joker. If Murray is healthy, I'm thinking 25 and 8 for him. Christian Brown, this is one where he could really get out in transition. James Harden and Donovan Mitchell are not going to be stopping him in transition. So get out there, transition, and run if you can. That'll be a great opportunity for just easy points. And Julian Strawther should have plenty of opportunities to get up some threes. Cam Johnson will have plenty of opportunities to get some switches on guys and like just run some smart offense. So Denver should be able to score too. If they can't, that's kind of an issue. Because I think that the Cavs are going to score at least 125. So Denver can score 130, but it'll be tough. It's also just a very high bar to have to reach. 130 points is crazy. Okay, folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll. Really appreciate the love and support on the podcast. As always, folks, I will be back tomorrow. After the Nuggets play tonight, we'll have a good reaction to that. Maybe there'll be some interesting things that we can go over. Let me know down in the comments your prediction for Nuggets Cavs tonight, who you think is going to shine, and we'll see if we can come back to those tomorrow and have a great day. So everybody have a good one. We've got 2 more games before the All-Star break, and then we can all have a little bit of a rest. Everybody enjoy. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.